Hey, what's going on, guys? OJ back here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about all of the fights to make following UFC Mexico City, Brandon Moreno versus Kavanagh. Now, I'm not going to be talking about every single fighter that fought on this card, just the ones I mainly care about for one reason or another. But regardless, though, I do think that these are realistic matchups considering where the divisions are currently after UFC Mexico City. So with that being said, let's jump right into the video. So when you look at the flyweight division right now, when Kavanagh, he's going to be ranked number 6 in the flyweight division come Tuesday. There's not that many matchups for him, you know. I really did not think he was going to win this fight, but Kavanagh dominated Moreno in Mexico City of all places. And I do believe that while sure he lost to Charles Johnson, is losing to Charles Johnson that bad? Joshua Van lost to Charles Johnson a while back, and now he's the champion of the flyweight division. So I don't think losing to Charles Johnson is necessarily a momentum killer. If anything, it's just a way for prospects to lock in and become top contenders or future champions in this division at least. So, Kavanagh, I think his next test should be against Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval, he did get slimed out a couple months back by Manel Cap, but I do believe that Royval, he is open to somewhat of a quick turnaround. Kavanagh did go 5 rounds with Moreno on short notice, but he did not really take that much damage in that fight. Kavanagh versus Brandon Royval, I do believe will be the fight to make. Kavanagh, I just don't think he deserves a title shot right off the bat, but he is in the mix for a title run. So, based on the matchups, as well as, who's available right now, Kavanagh versus Brandon Royval, I think this is the fight to make. It just makes a lot of sense to me, and I do believe that Kavanagh would win this fight, considering how timid Royval has been looking as of recently. But either way, Kavanagh versus Brandon Royval, I would say book this sometime in the middle or late 2026. Moving on to Brandon Moreno, who honestly could not do anything against Kavanagh on short notice. That's actually kind of crazy to say, because I thought that Moreno had this one in the bag. But Moreno, the title run's over. The title run is over. So at this point, he's going to have to fight just a bunch of fun fights. And I think a fun fight we have for Moreno is Aelin Perez. All right, Aelin Perez, he's coming off a win against Charles Johnson. But I don't really see the UFC really pushing Aelin Perez up, especially because he did miss weight in his fight with Charles Johnson. So they're probably going to give it to Moreno. Maybe the UFC tries to salvage Moreno's career back, but I don't know. I just want to see a fun fight for Moreno. I don't really care if he goes back on another 3-fight win streak or anything like that, because I don't think he's going to get back to the title. But Moreno versus Perez, both guys love to strike on the feet. Both are primary boxers, and I do believe that Moreno he's not completely washed, all right? He's not completely washed to the point where, he's not even a ranked flyweight caliber fighter. So, Moreno versus Aelin Perez, I do think that this is the fight to make, and I think this would be interesting sometime, I would say, maybe August or September of 2026. But either way, Brandon Moreno versus Aelin Perez. Put this on, I would say, a main card opener, or maybe even the prelim headliner. I think that would be fine between Brandon Moreno and Aelin Perez. Moving on to David Martinez, who beat up Chito Vera. Chito Vera, I'm gonna be honest, he just didn't look good. It did not really raise my stock of David Martinez because, I don't know, a lot of different prospects beat Chito Vera more convincingly. And I just don't know who David Martinez is realistically going to beat. But there is one guy in the division that's technically above David Martinez in the rankings right now. It's just that he is unbelievably old and washed. Davison Figueiredo. All right. Figgy is coming off 2 losses in a row to Umar Nurmagomedov and Petr Yan. Not as shameful losses necessarily. They are top of the elites in the bantamweight division, but it's just the way Figgy's been looking recently. I just can't really trust this guy. And David Martinez, I do believe that's the only fight that he has a realistic chance in. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if even Amin Zahabi beats David Martinez. Like, I don't know. Both of those guys are incredibly mid. But either way, David Martinez versus David Figueiredo. This feels like the realistic fight. Figgy is going to have to fight down. Maybe he just retires because he is getting really old at this point. But either way, this is the only fight that I can realistically see David Martinez taking. Maybe the UFC jumps him up too soon and gives him a Corey Sandhagen matchup, but I think Corey Sandhagen will do really bad things to David Martinez. So yeah, David Martinez versus David Figueiredo. This is the more approachable matchup for Martinez, and honestly, this is probably gonna matchup that we're gonna get sometime in the middle of 2026. Now, I want to see this fight because this will be absolutely hilarious to watch. We got two punching bags between Marlon Chito Vera and Montel Jackson, both known for their insane output and volumes and strikes. Like, I'm kidding, bro. These guys just like to stare at their opponents and barely throw anything. So I think this would be a very funny matchup, right? This is basically a mirror matchup, except for the fact that Montel Jackson, he has more power in his hands, whereas Chito Vera, he likes to use his kicks more. But realistically, there's not going to be that many significant strikes thrown. Like, I would honestly tell you guys, like, the under and total significant strikes will be, like, a safe bet if this fight were to be booked. So, for the memes, alright, so that people can be raging about how awful both of these two are, I want to see Marlon Chito Vera fight Montel Jackson. Maybe, alright, maybe this is the one time Marlon Vera can fluke a head kick, for the one time. I don't think he's going to get the head kick, though. Like, I'll be honest, though, both of them just, like, they just don't throw shit, and they are incredibly frustrating to watch. But still, though, Marlon Vera versus Montel Jackson. This seems like a really funny fight that the UFC can put, I wouldn't say on a main card opener for a pay-per-view, but maybe like a fight night. Maybe a fight night co-main event feature fight. But either way, this would be pretty funny if they put Marlon Vera and Montel Jackson, because both of these guys are notoriously known for their lack of output. Moving on to Bobby Green, all right? You know what? He's earned the King moniker for now, all right? But I do believe that Bobby Green needs to fight someone who is not complete dog shit like Daniel Zellhuber. And I'm going to give him Nazim Sadikov, all right? Another prospect that, fair enough, got fraud checked by Faresiam. But I do believe that Nazim Sadikov is a solid fighter. Bobby Green is kind of a test for Sadikov. But at the same time, though, Sadikov, he was on a good win streak prior to fighting Faresiam. He did get slimed out by Faresiam, so maybe timelines don't match up. But considering where both of these guys are in the division, like roughly around the top 30 to 25-ish, I think this is a cool fight to make. I mean, you can always book Bobby Green versus Michael Johnson, but I do believe that Michael Johnson is fighting Drew Dober next week for UFC 326? Yeah. But either way, though, Bobby Green versus Nazim Sadikov, I think this would be a cool fight. I think Nazim Sadikov will honestly win at this point because I don't think he's complete dog shit like Daniel Zellhuber, but it's an interesting test because Bobby Green, if you're not elite caliber in the lightweight division, Bobby Green is the guy to quickly expose that. So, have Nazim Sadikov fight Bobby Green, and let's see whether or not Nazim Sadikov can get back on track and potentially become a ranked lightweight in the future. I want to see this fight for the memes, all right? We got Daniel Zellhuber versus Anshul Jubli, two of the worst lightweights on the roster right now. Loser gets cut from the UFC, and they join the GFL. Either way, though, like, I think this would be a hilarious matchup because both of these guys are not UFC caliber. I'm gonna be quite frank, all right? And I am the retard who picked Daniel Zellhuber to beat Bobby Green, and I regret making that decision for myself. So now that Daniel Zellhuber lost to Bobby Green, I gotta treat him like a complete meme and a joke because, let's be honest here, outside of that fight of the year contender to be specific, against Esteban Ribovic, Daniel Zellhuber has not done shit. Alright, he has really not done much in the UFC. So let's see whether or not Daniel Zellhuber even belongs in the UFC. And the way we test that out is if he can beat Anshul Jubilee or not, all right? The great Indian pride himself. I wouldn't even be surprised if we got a double KO, because that's how little faith I have in both of their chins, as well as just their fighting capabilities in the first place. But either way, Daniel Zellhuber versus Anshul Jubilee. I think this is a funny fight to make for the memes themselves, and the loser of this fight will be shipped off to the GFL. Edgar Chairez did beat Felipe Bunes, but let's be honest here, even if you thought Edgar Chairez clearly won the fight, he did not look all that good. Alright, I expected Edgar Chairez to kind of dominate someone like Felipe Bunes, who hasn't really shown a lot in his UFC career. Edgar Chairez, though, still won the fight. So, we're gonna have to give him, like, one more test. Originally, I was thinking, if he dominates Felipe Bunes, let's give him a ranked opponent. But, honestly, that fight with Felipe Bunes did kind of drop my stock on him a little bit. So, I need to see him fight, like, one more guy just outside of the rankings of the flyweight division right now. And that guy, in my opinion, is Jose Ochoa. In hindsight, Jose Ochoa is really good. He, went to a close decision with Looney Kavanagh. Certainly put up a better fight than Brandon Moreno did, which I'm really shocked about. He did lose to Asu Amabayev, but that was on short notice. So let's see where Jose Ochoa really stacks up in the flyweight division. And I think Jose Ochoa versus Edgar Chairez is a good fight to make. And the winner of this fight can get a ranked opponent. Alright, I do believe that Jose Ochoa has some potential. Let's put it to the test against someone who's just outside of the rankings of the flyweight division. Moving on to Imanol Rodriguez, who had a crazy fight with Kevin Borjas. I do believe, though, he's a little bit inexperienced as well. Same thing with Santiago Luna. Like, they have raw talent. They have so much potential and talent. But I do believe that a lot of guys in the flyweight division right now can beat Imanol Rodriguez. So let's slow build him as well. And unfortunately for Matt Schnell, he's got to do his job and get slammed out by another flyweight prospect. Imanol Rodriguez, let's give him a highlight reel KO. Matt Schnell, you can honestly just blow a gust of wind at him and he'll get knocked out at this point. Imanol Rodriguez, I just want to see him built up slowly. And the way we build him up slowly is by giving him a match now and one more fight against another random bum, and then we give him a decent test in the flyweight division. I feel like we need to slow roll Santiago Luna. I understand that Santiago Luna has a lot of raw talent, and he is 21 years old only, so there is a lot of potential in this young man. But that fight with Angel Pacheco did show me that he's a little bit inexperienced, and I could totally see him losing to anybody who's really good in the bantamweight division, even if they're not in the rankings just yet. So Santiago Luna, I do believe that he's going to fight a couple of more bums. One bum that comes to mind is Muin Gafurov. Muin Gafurov is awful, alright? And I do believe that his ground game is just not UFC caliber in the first place. So let's have Santiago Luna really test out his grappling against someone like Muin Gafurov, who can pose a little bit of problems on the feet here and there. But on the ground, it's just clear that Muin Gafurov cannot defend takedowns, and he doesn't really have that many weapons. So yeah, Santiago Luna versus Muin Gafurov, I believe, is the fight to make. Let's book this sometime on the Noche card later this year. I would say on the September card, let's have Santiago Luna and Muin Gafurov on the early prelims. And I do believe that Santiago Luna should be able to win this fight. If he finishes Muin Gafurov either by KO or submission, I will be impressed. But either way, let's slow roll Santiago Luna's career. And then once he beats a couple of more bums like Muin Gafurov, then he can challenge someone who's actually pretty good. Ryan Gandra knocked out Jose Daniel Medina in the first round, but let's be honest here, do we even rate that win as an insane feat? Not really. So I still need to test whether or not Ryan Gandra belongs in the UFC. And the way we test if Ryan Gandra actually belongs in the UFC or not is by having him fight someone who is actually UFC caliber, just not the best, and Ismail Nardiev. Alright, Ismail Nardiev is coming off a round 1 KO against Ryan Loder. He took no damage in this fight, same with Ryan Gandra. Both of their schedules, I do believe, kind of align. So Ryan Gandra versus Ismail Nordiev. I think this could be on a random prelim, on a fight night, or a pay-per-view, but either way, I need to see Ryan Gandra fight someone who is actually UFC caliber, and then I'll make my judgments on him after. But for now, he got a win over Jose Medina, which I'm going to be honest, like, I don't even know if I can rate that win in the year of 2026. Cheeks ahoy! Aelin Perez beat Macy Chasson 29-28 decision. Not the best fight, I will admit that, but she did get the job done, and I do believe that she deserves a top 5 contender in the women's bantamweight division right now. And the only one available immediately, I think, is Raquel Pennington. Right, Raquel Pennington, I don't know where she's at. She hasn't fought in like a year and a half. Maybe she's dealing with some crazy injuries, but either way, Aelin Perez versus Raquel Pennington. I do believe that this is a realistic matchup, seeing as how Aelin Perez beat nearly everybody outside of the top 10. And Raquel Pennington, she is going to have to prove herself. Like, she's been out for like a year and a half. She's coming off that loss to Juliana Pena, which I did think she beat Juliana Pena, but let's be honest here, Juliana Pena is absolute cheeks. So Aelin Perez versus Raquel Pennington. If Aelin Perez can dominate Raquel Pennington, I do believe that will warrant her a title shot. But either way, though, Aelin Perez versus Raquel Pennington can be on a random fight night or a random pay-per-view prelim opener. Like, I don't really care about this fight, but considering where both of these gals are at in the division, I think this is the fight to make. Now, I don't know how good Javier Reyes is. You know, you're getting caught in the chin by 40-year-old Douglas Silva de Andrade. Like, it is kind of concerning. But then again, though, you did survive and you beat the shit out of Andrade right after. So, fair enough. I'm going to have Javier Reyes, though, fight someone who is actually UFC caliber in William Gomez. Now, I would love to see Javier Reyes slime out William Gomez, but William Gomez can do William Gomez things and just make it a boring kickboxing match where he's just defending the wrestling and just picking him apart with, like, jabs nonstop. But either way, Javier Reyes, he is fun, but I do need to see him fight someone who is actually UFC caliber, and someone who is UFC caliber, in my opinion, is William Gomez, even though I don't think his fighting style is all that great. So either way, though, I'll have Javier Reyes fight William Gomez sometime. I would say the Paris cards, like, because that's typically when William Gomez likes to fight. They could honestly do this sooner because Javier Reyes, he did get dropped, but outside of that, like, he was kind of dominating the fight with little resistance. So, Javier Reyes versus William Gomez, I would book this sometime August or September, probably in the French card later this year. But either way, Javier Reyes versus William Gomez, I believe, is the fight to make. Regina Tarin really shocked me because she kind of schooled Ernesta Carrascate on the feet. She gritted down and threw the more damaging shots, which I did not really think that was going to be the case. And I actually thought that Regina Tarin, the only reason she's here is because she's got a nice ass, but she's actually really fun to watch. So I would try to kind of build her up as a legitimate prospect, and the way we build her up is having her fight like JJ Aldridge, you know, someone who's just outside the rankings. Maybe she's number 15, I'm not really too sure, but either way, though, Regina Tarin versus JJ Aldridge, I think this would be a cool fight for Regina Tarin to kind of build up her name as a future prospect in the women's flyweight division. Tarin, maybe we give her a full training camp and she looks actually really slim. But either way, though, Regina Tarin versus JJ Aldridge, like, book this on a random prelim. Like, I don't care where you book this in, but I would say sometime like July or August. Yeah, I think that's very realistic. So yeah, Regina Tarin versus JJ Aldridge, I think, is the fight to make after Regina Tarin beat Ernesta Carrascate. Last but not least, Damian Pinas. You know, Pinas is raw, but unfortunately, he is going to have to fight a couple of bums before I really trust in him. Like, here's the thing. Beating Wes Schultz in the first round, like, I'm going to be real, like, yeah, Wes Schultz not bottom of the barrel, but, like, he's not good by any means. So, I would like to see Damian Pinas take similar to the Ateba Gautier route, where he slimes out a bunch of cans and then gets a jump up in competition slowly. He is only, 23 years old, so there's a lot of time to develop for this young man. And I do believe that Ozzy Diaz, you know, it's been a while since he's been on the chopping block, but let's have Ozzy Diaz fight Damian Pinas. Let Pinas explode all over him, give him back shots. I do believe that Pinas will brutally slime him out in the first round. But either way, that's what we're here to see. All right, Damian Pinas should slime out Ozzy Diaz. I'm going to say sometime in June or July. You know, Pinas took relatively no damage in this fight. And Ozzy Diaz, it has been a while since he's last fought. So let's see Pinas explode over Ozzy Diaz's face. And let's see a brutal highlight reel KO in the early prelims of a random pay-per-view. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. If you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe so we can monetize this channel. But otherwise, leave any comments down below who you would match up, especially for the main event, because let's be honest here, that's the one that we care about. But yeah, leave any comments down below for other cool matchups you would like to see. I will have my predictions out for UFC 326 either tomorrow or Tuesday. I'm not exactly sure when, but yeah, stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time. Peace.